Hello, and welcome to the newly renamed podcast, Rewatchable, where we talk about movies that are very rewatchable.
Sorry.
No, should I
I
redo?
thought I was doing a bad job.
I was trying to do a silly accent.
I know,
I was
I could
I was doing
tell.
a
I
Clint
think maybe
accent.
just speak in a normal voice.
This time we are going to be talking about Avatar.
No.
No, can't use that. I think
No.
we can use that.
Do-do-do-diddle-do-bow!
Hello, and welcome to Rewatchable, formerly Rewatchers, where we rewatch shows we love and share our thoughts. I'm Sarah,
And I'm Clint.
and we are currently talking about the 2005 Nickelodeon show Avatar: The Last Airbender. This episode, we're focusing on Book 1, Episode 5, The King of Omashu.
Which is the worst episode so far for the sole reason that it does not include Zuko.
True. That's actually an interesting point that you bring up because a lot of people think that this is just a filler episode, but I would argue that it is not.
Oh,
No,
yeah,
I would
it's
disagree.
important, for sure.
Very
I don't think
important.
the show has filler episodes. I think every
No.
episode is important.
No, I think that's true. Written by John O'Brien and directed by Anthony, I'm going to mess up his last name, Lioi? Lioi.
You just gotta say it with confidence, and then
Lioi.
no one ever questions you.
Anthony Lioi. Quick overview of the episode. So, the group arrives at the Earth Kingdom city of Omashu, where Aang shows Katara and Sokka the famous mail delivery system. Aang tells them that he and his friend Bumi wrote the system for fun 100 years previously. The trio gives the shoots a try, but they are soon discovered and arrested. Omashu's old king quickly discovers Aang is the Avatar and decides to put him through 3 deadly challenges to test his skills. After successfully completing his challenges, Aang discovers the king is his old friend Bumi, who reveals Aang's destiny: master the other 3 elements and defeat Fire Lord Ozai.
Well, there we go. So, how did you feel about this episode?
How do I feel about this episode? I think it starts off a little slow, but I love the ending. I remember the first time I watched it, I was completely clueless. Like, I had no idea that the king was Boomy. Like,
Mhm.
I was just like, oh, what a nice flashback. And then at the end, he was like, hey, Boomy. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, I think on a rewatch, it's obvious, like, oh, why is this
It's
here?
very obvious.
But it's like,
yeah.
it's like, now it's like, oh, of course that's why this is
Yeah,
here.
of course. But the first time I watched it, I was being stupid.
Mhm.
But like I said, it starts a little slow. Like, it's a little odd when they like go to the city and Aang's talking about the whole mail delivery system. I think the biggest thing that you get like right off the bat is the demonstration of earthbending, because the whole city is basically
Yes.
controlled by earthbending, which
This
is really
is
cool.
the episode where they decided we're 5 episodes in. We really need to show the fans what earthbending is.
Yeah, because we've seen the other 3.
Yes, multiple times.
Yes.
There is some stuff in the early stuff that I'm able to talk about that I think was pretty interesting. Like,
Yeah.
there is truthfully a holdover from episode 4 where like they're like, okay, we're entering a new city. We have to hide that you're the Avatar now.
Right.
And so they do the whole disguise, making him look like an old man.
Because he's learned his lesson from last time. There we go.
Yeah. So like, even though he might forget the lesson down the line, at least they kept it going for an episode.
Yeah. We also have Cabbage Guy.
Yes, the cabbage
We
merchant.
had previously in episode 4, we had Foaming Mouth Guy, and now we have Cabbage Guy.
Mhm.
And just all these lovely characters are coming out of the woodwork.
Yes, like this show does a really good job with detailed and funny background characters.
Yeah, those
that
like
that are
inside
memorable.
jokes. Yeah, exactly. And they bring them back.
And like, honestly, like I think that like if you're looking at this episode as like a rewatcher who is like thinking about like, okay, this is one episode out of 61 episodes, like what happened in this episode? He had some challenges and whatever. But looking at it as like episode 5 of the series, this is like the first giant metropolis we've gotten to see.
Right, that's true.
And it is really interesting. Like, I don't think I could make a city as interesting as Omashu. Like this giant pyramid-shaped place in the middle of like a valley, like so that there's like this Earth
On like the
bridge.
fucking plateau, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
where they have like they use their superpowers to like send their packages everywhere,
Yeah.
and like it's just a really cool looking city.
Mm-hmm. It really is.
Um, well, okay, so there is something else that I thought was interesting. Like when they're it's a blink and you miss it moment.
Mm-hmm.
But when Aang and the group are speeding around the city,
Mm-hmm.
you see an Earth Nation army guy talking to some new recruits, saying you're going off to war soon. Um,
Oh,
and so there's this this endless like sense like, oh, there's like, even though we're having fun today, there's a war going on in the background. Don't forget, kids.
right. No, that's true.
Hmm.
Um, I mentioned that this is the first time we really see earth bending just from
Hmm.
the beginning and in the function of the city, but then also in the duel that Aang has with Boomy. The thing that I wrote down um, about the challenges was, I mean, we know obviously, but it's like, what is Boomy trying to get out of Aang by like making him do these challenges? And partly it's like it's a way for Aang to realize that the king is actually his friend because he told him, so long ago that you have to be able to look at things in a different way. And so that's like one reason why these challenges are so bizarre. But then it also like came to my attention, like it seemed to me that each of the challenges would have been way easier for him if he knew the other bending techniques. You know,
Hmm.
like
Like if he was an earthbender,
yeah,
he
and
could
I
have just
and I
shot
think
a
it's
rock at that
interesting.
key.
Yeah, I think or water bender, and he could have just water bended the
True,
waterfall.
true.
Like so. I think it's interesting that with the news that Boomy then tells Aang, which is you need to master the other elements. Um, it's not necessarily like the whole purpose that Boomy's doing that, but it's an interesting tie-in to say, like a foreshadowing of like what Aang maybe will be able to do in the future, or
No,
like
that's really interesting.
what
I
his
never
new
thought of that
purpose
before.
is about to be.
Yeah, I don't think I ever thought about that before, so that's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
I
because
like
that's what I
that.
was thinking. Because I had forgotten, upon this rewatch, I had forgotten that that's what was going to be revealed, or like that was the point of the challenges, was so that Aang could recognize that it was Boomy. Um, and so then, my first thought watching it was, oh, that would be so much easier if you knew how to water bend.
Hmm.
Like you're trying all this air stuff and it's not working.
Yeah, because like the thing that I got out of this was is that I never thought about before is, why does Boomy have this? Why is this
Yeah.
here? Like she said,
True.
like let me set like paint a word picture here.
Mm,
That it's this underground cavern with stalagmites and stalactites,
right.
a vertical pillar of a waterfall with a chain. With the end of it is a key, and
Like
there's a ladder.
who had to tie the key to the chain, Like
Right,
who set
right.
this up?
And there's a ladder that someone has built in the middle of this waterfall, that you can try and climb up towards the key. And Boomy says, "Oh, trying the ladder.
No
No
one's
one's
done
tried
that
that
before.
before." And it's like, how many times has he given this death trial? Like, we know
Yeah.
he's doing this to Aang because he's the Avatar,
Yeah.
but what's he
But does he
doing?
regularly do this to other prisoners? Like,
He does say messing with people is pretty fun.
yeah, but still.
So I'm like, yeah, I have to imagine that, like, if you destroy public property in Omashu, you are going in this chamber and you are going to probably die there.
Probably. But at least you'll get to spend a night in the newly refurbished, formerly bad chamber. The chamber that is newly refurbished that was once bad.
Yes.
Also, this going on to the second trial, why does Boomy have a giant goat gorilla named what is it? Floppy?
Flopsy.
Flopsy.
I honestly don't have a problem with that though. Like that makes me
No.
think of like rich emperors and kings who would just keep exotic
Exotic
animals.
animals, yeah.
Like, oh, I'm just gonna have a bear and a tiger in my palace in Iraq.
True.
You know,
Yeah.
like I'm pretty sure Saddam Hussein had like a tiger or a lion
Probably.
in his
Probably.
palace. yeah, like the of the three challenge rooms, I think the room with Flopsy is the one that I am most okay with. Like
Hmm.
it's like, oh, okay, he has a big room that he keeps his pet monster in. That's fine.
Yeah, it's like
Um,
that was the least cruel of the challenges. Like he was messing
mhm.
with Aang, but like Aang was never in serious danger.
Yes, yes,
Which
like,
I was fine with that, but then yeah, why what's with the waterfall, you know?
mhm. And then the final challenge in what seems to be an underground coliseum. Like,
Basically.
is this like? Does he have his servants duel each other to the death for his entertainment down here? Does he spar
Probably.
regularly? What's he doing with this place?
Although
Hmm.
I guess I didn't question it the first time I watched it.
I didn't either. I'm questioning it on the rewatch.
Yeah, exactly. Who knows, honestly. I mean, if we try to like pick it all apart.
Yeah, and it also shows off the like the peaks of how an earthbender can perform.
Oh yeah,
Like
I
we saw,
think
like that's the real reason we have this
yeah,
fight
so we
here.
can see because Boomy's like one of the best earthbenders. So we can
Yes.
see what how amazing earthbending can really be.
Yeah, because like moving packages is fine and all,
Hmm.
but seeing a guy lift a 5-ton boulder
Yeah.
and launch it at you, that's pretty
Oh,
cool.
and just like uh mole his way through dirt and
Oh
stone.
yeah, that's like
Yeah,
so much
the
fun.
the move where he just like falls backwards into the dirt and then just like
Hmm.
pops up on the top of the balcony or whatever.
No, that's great.
It's amazing. Like he just like falls through it like it's butter. Like,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah, it's like a
Uh,
stupider show would have just had him throw rocks, but this
yeah.
show has some really inventive ways to use
Of
these power.
using it. Yes. No,
It's
exactly.
not just telekinesis. There's like changing the molecular structure of it,
Right.
like to turn it into sand,
Right.
basically.
Basically. Yeah, yeah, because he turns the ground into quicksand so that Aang can't
Hmm.
run.
Yes.
No, it's
Yeah, that's
awesome.
another cool thing. How do you feel about his weird transformation?
You mean his abs?
That and his spine, like,
I don't
curving.
know. I think, well, I was reading that originally they were just going to keep him as like a frail old man because the point was, you know, you don't have to be ripped to be a great earthbender. That was like going to
Hmm.
be the whole point. But then they decided just to give him abs because it looks cooler. Because like you know because then that reveal is so cool because he goes like you chose wrong and he like rips off his shirt and he's like
Hmm.
totally ripped and Aang's like oh shit. um
It's like, can I fight the guy with the axe instead, please?
yeah. Right. um so I don't know. Yes, it is cool. Like I love ripped Boomy because I think it's funny, but like also is there any other point to that whole transformation aside from like the humor or whatever? Because in all other like things, like the rest of the episode, he acts like a frail old man, even though he's clearly not. Like
Mhm.
only when he decides to like do his earthbending is he like, I'm actually strong and capable, and then he just like goes back to being like kind of hunched over and slow.
You have to stay upright, dude. Like, why? He has terrible posture most of the time. That's all
Yeah.
I'm saying.
But yes, you bring up a good point. I don't understand the point of that weird back cracking thing. Like he could have just taken off his robes and been like, haha, I'm ripped. He
Hmm.
didn't have to like do a weird like werewolf thing. Like it was a
That's the
little
closest thing
creepy.
to it.
Yeah, it was a little creepy.
Okay. Spoiler territory now.
Okay, we're getting into spoilers.
Yes.
Beware.
Okay. So we know from the finale that Boomy is part of the Order of the White
Yeah.
Lotus.
Yeah.
And so this is a guy who has access to a major world organization
Mm.
that is implicitly aligned with helping the Avatar.
Mm-hmm.
Why does he let him go? Why don't you give him an escort? Why don't you give him a guide? They get
I
lost all the fucking time. What about giving this guy some food? What about, say, go to this
True.
safe house?
True.
Here's a White Lotus tile. Show this to people, and you might get away with shit. Like, what the fuck, Boomy?
I feel like I don't know. Maybe they didn't want us to be suspicious yet because that is like a huge reveal. Or
Mm-hmm.
maybe they didn't think about it yet. Honestly, it might be a writing thing. Maybe they didn't think about having Boomy be this thing yet because it's
Mm-hmm.
only the first season and that doesn't like the big reveal doesn't happen until the third season.
What I prefer to think is that Boomy is crazy and he thinks that like, oh, they'll be fine.
Probably.
Aang's a good kid. He'll figure it out.
Honestly, I think you can just use that for anything. Like, I mean, we were talking about
Mm-hmm.
like why does Boomy have this waterfall? Because he's crazy. I mean,
Yes.
like if you want an explanation for anything that Boomy does, it's because he's a genius, but he's a mad genius, so he's a little
Yes.
off his rocker even so.
Mm-hmm.
You
He was
know,
off his rocker at age 12.
yeah, he was
He's so crazy.
exactly. He's still a little insane.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows why he does what he does.
Um, I think the biggest nitpick I have is that this episode feels weird um, following the last four because there's no Zuko. This is the
Right.
first time we've had
An episode with no
one plot.
Zuko. Yeah.
And I think you can kind of feel that. You feel that like it's not like the episode isn't as strong when it has to stretch out one plot for 22 episodes and you
Right.
can't cut away to a different plot for a few minutes.
Right. But I mean, they're like in a very contained area. So I think yes, compared to the first four episodes, it feels strange that we don't have Zuko, but I think it might have felt strange if we did have him just because of the nature of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
And also like every episode he does something to get closer to the avatar, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And if he had like found out that they were in Omashu, it would have been he would have gone to Omashu and there would have been trouble a lot sooner and they weren't like ready for that yet. Like
Mm-hmm.
they weren't
Yeah, and it
ready
would
for the
have messed
war
up the
to
plot of the
start yet,
episode.
you know? Like
Mm-hmm.
if it had been found out that Aang was in Omashu, like the Fire Nation would have been on it right away.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think maybe that's why.
No, that's fair. Something else I was just thinking about right now.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the big thing about Omashu in this show ends up becoming that it's this place we're introduced to early on, but and then it gets captured by the Fire Nation in season two.
Mm-hmm.
I was just thinking we really don't get too much of the city itself in this episode that we feel bad about. We pretty much just get Boomy. But I was just thinking, like, wouldn't it have been really cool if they had met some people in, like, more people in Omashu that they could have been like, oh, we're worried about them.
No, I see what you're saying
Because, like,
for the
in that
conflict
episode later
later.
on, Aang really wants to go in and save Boomy. But
Mm-hmm.
Katara and Sokka are like, I don't know, should we really go in? It's taken over by the Fire Nation.
Because they don't care about Boomy as much.
Mm-hmm.
And so it would have been interesting if they had more of an internal conflict because of the people that they had met in Omashu.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I can see where
Like,
that would have been interesting.
yeah. So that's just a little bit of a
A
disappointment
little bit of a
in
lost
rewatching this
opportunity.
episode, thinking that.
For sure, no, definitely. Also, to use that to make the episode move slightly quicker, because I think you were right when you said before, it because of Zuko not being there, even though I think they had their reasons for it, it tends to move slower.
Like, what if Aang is the only one in the palace and he thinks that Katara and Sokka are imprisoned, but they've actually been released and
Yeah,
they're out in the city
meeting
meeting people?
people.
Like, that could have been an interesting B plot.
Yeah, because what's the point of the rock candy?
It's just a dumb joke. That's really all it is. It's more Boomy's crazy. It's like Boomy being crazy. The jokes land about half the time, I think.
Yeah. I was gonna mention his puns.
Oh my god,
I
his dad
loved his
jokes.
puns. Like that's just like a side thing. It serves no purpose, but it's just fun. Like
You're a fan of puns.
let us leave. Lettuce leaves?
Eats lettuce leaf.
Lettuce leaf. um or
Kangaroo Island.
Kangaroo Island.
I think that place is really hopping. We never get to see Kangaroo Island. Also, kangaroos. That's another animal that doesn't get a fancy double name.
Oh, okay. Well, I was gonna say Kangaroo Island is not an actual place in the Avatar
Oh,
world,
oh, it's fake.
but it is an island in Australia.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
so it's a real place in this world, but not in the Avatar world.
Interesting.
hmm It's just
Any
off the
interesting
coast of
facts
southern
about Kangaroo
Australia.
Island? Are there people from Kangaroo Island?
Well,
Or
let's
are they just
see.
kangaroos?
Kangaroo Island is Australia's third largest island after Tasmania and Melville Island. It lies in the state of South Australia, southwest of Adelaide. Its closest point to the mainland is Snapper Point in Baxter's Passage, which is 13.5 kilometers from the Fleurieu Peninsula. Once
Flory?
occupied, it's like I have no idea how to pronounce it. I'm saying Fleurieu.
Okay.
You told me to be very pointed in how I pronounce things, so that's what I'm doing.
Yes, you're right. I did.
Once occupied by Australian Aborigines, the native population disappeared from the archaeological record when the land became an island following rising sea levels several thousand years ago. It was subsequently settled intermittently by sealers and whalers in the early 19th century and from 1836 on a permanent basis during the establishment of the colony of South Australia. Since then, the island's economy has been principally agricultural, with a southern rock lobster fishery and with tourism growing in importance. The largest town and the administrative center is Kingscott. The island has several nature preserves to protect the remnants of its natural vegetation and native animals, the largest and best known being Flinders Chase National Park at the western end. So I'm
Well,
assuming there are
it sounds
people
pretty
there, but
hopping.
it's probably like sparsely populated with mostly um, no, lots of nature.
Kangaroos.
Mostly kangaroos, yeah. I'm assuming there has to be kangaroos there.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening about the King of Omashu. The
On that
episode where we
note,
talk about South Australia and kangaroos.
yeah.
Bye bye.
Till next time.
Do 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 bow.